It's another Friday, but this is no ordinary Friday. It's the Friday just before Christmas. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
I don't know if I should go first before me. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa. It's Friday. And I know we're all celebrating the fact that Christmas is 5 days away. But for those of us who will still be working, you know, we're happy for all of you that are going to celebrate.
Don't dampen the mood.
Okay.
Thank you, Maupe. Thank you. By the way, whichever way you look at it, there is no fun in some quarters without television. So no matter how much fun and excitement people are having, someone's got to give other people fun. And hey, anywhere you go to, for instance, we're going to be bringing you another skyline now. Some people are working on that day to ensure that you have fun. So please, don't dampen the mood. Thank you, Maupe. I'm Ayoma Akinde, by the way. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Well, in keeping with a great mood this Friday, I think we should bring you the skyline. It's one of my favorite skylines. And we are going to Osun State, the home of several skylines, the home of several historical sites. Love this particular one. I hope I pronounce it properly, so I'm going to try.
I'm waiting for you.
Jesha. Did I get it or no?
Yeah, well, let Ayo do the marking.
Ayo, how did I do?
But hey, I don't really care whether you pronounce it well or you don't pronounce it. It doesn't take anything away from the site. I mean, just take a look at this beauty. I mean, for a moment, all I want to do is keep quiet and let our viewers just take it in. I mean, look at that. Look at that, Kayla. It is gorgeous.
You should see it up close. If you're there under that water and you stand there, something just happens to you. You suddenly feel the need to just spread your arms and let the water just pour on you. Yeah. It was magical to be in this place.
And I think, you know, talking about movies, because I was always going on and on and on about movies, I think this was the waterfall used in the Seven Doors. The new Seven Doors movie trending on Netflix.
Oh, it was this one?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, where the old the wives of his ancestor were thrown down.
Yes, so
I think it is.
It is the waterfall. So I mean, Ayo, your thinking about movies is certainly not in vain. And for those who are wondering, where was that site? Yes, it is a real site. It was not CGI. It is Henry Jesha Waterfalls.
Say it again.
I'm not going to say it again. Not get me the first time. That is it. That's all you get. Playback.
Henry Jesha.
Better.
Henry Jesha Waterfall there in Osun State.
Exactly. Now you know where it is. And look at how hidden it is. The people of Osun consider that a sacred grove. I mean, look at where it is, right at the foot of a mountain. And we understand that the locals go there to purify themselves. There's a whole festival around it. It's believed to have been discovered by one of the daughters of Oduduwa, etc., etc., etc. However, this is now for your viewing pleasure. Movies are being shot there. And you know what? If you just happen to be traveling through Osun State during the season, do make this one of your stopovers if you can. It certainly will be worth your while. Ayo, what do you think?
I think it is just marvelous, and both of you have nailed the issues right there. The fact that it's been preserved over the years. I mean, if this was in Lagos, God Almighty, I don't even want to imagine what could have happened, you know, but because, I mean, the Lekki Conservation Center is still there, but this is definitely a sight to behold. The fact that, you know, it's been there for so many decades, centuries even, is something to be celebrated, no doubt about it. And by the way, do you know that it also has another name called Olumiri? Like another god or something. That's according to the people who are in that area and who really know it. And Kayla, yes, you're very, very spot on. It's a place you want to just go there and just be. Mark, you nailed it the other time. If you're looking for a place, you need some serenity. You just go there. Yes, it's going to be, and you can see that there's some infrastructure that's been put there. If you can't walk, you need to walk up there. In other words, the government has done something to ensure that it is a place you want to go, a place you want to be, a place you want to enjoy yourself. So yes, this is definitely a place to go. And I'm glad, Amakwe, that you identified the fact that movies are being shot there. So the potential in this country is in country. I marvel when I hear people say they had to go to South Africa to shoot some movie. Really? Anyway, I'm not going to begrudge anyone for doing that, but just so you know, this is in Nigeria.
You see, when I looked at the floor there, that was the place where those women landed.
Of course.
It's the one. It's the one. You see, this... I want to give special kudos to the Osun State government for this particular waterfall, and maybe 3 or 4
Why? They
other
did not create it?
No. I want to give kudos for their ability to ensure that tourists enjoy it.
Indeed.
They make sure that you're safe. There's always some security person around, and they have so many people, tour guides, who walk you through the histories, and even when like this one has multiple histories. So when they give you every single story about it. I think it was well curated. This is actually well done. And one of those sites that other states that have historic sites like this should also learn from the Osun State government and whatever template they're using to sensitize people and make sure that the tourism is well done and protected and everyone feels safe. I think it's a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, because this is right in the middle of a forest. If there's anything I'm going to give them kudos for, it will be that they have kept the forest pristine, and they haven't let anything come to it. Nobody is going to go and log wood there. Nobody is affecting the ecological structure around that place. It's just as is, and I think that is wonderful. I hope that they're able to present this someday to maybe UNESCO heritage site, and it will be kept like that for generations to come. So this is what we're showing you this morning. Don't say we didn't do anything for you on this program. We're showing you the places you can go. Well, that's not all we do, We also tell you what the dailies have. So here you go. This is your shot at taking a look at the dailies.
Let's begin a look at the papers this morning with the Nigerian Tribune. FG declares suspension of Edo LG chairman illegal. Stories on page 2. With July 11 Supreme Court judgment, removal of LG chairman is prerogative of LG legislative arm, as according to the AGF. The details on the inside pages. The Guardian newspaper, how inflation stole Christmas. And look at what Santa Claus is doing. Anyway, the details you'll find on the inside pages. The Daily Times newspaper, 2025 budget will transform Nigeria if fully implemented. That's from the Deputy Senate President. The Nigerian News Direct has Ibadan Front Fair Stampede. Tinubu, Oni sympathized with victims' families as death toll hits 35. FG orders probe. Oni offers support for victims' families, calls for improved safety measures. That story is on page 3 of the paper. Blueprint has Wike revokes Buhari Foundation, Abbas Akume Onore's land titles. FCT IRS recounts achievements, sets bold targets for 2025. Business Day, 16 trillion naira debt burden outstrips security education budgets. Experts fear budget may not deliver tangible gains. Tinubu Shetima to spend 8.74 billion naira on local international trips. And the details of that story on the inside pages. This Nigeria landing in trouble. FCT Minister Wike revokes lands of prominent Nigerians for failing to pay statutory bills and charges. Buhari, Abbas, Akume, others affected. Stories on page 9. Vanguard newspaper, health risks worsen as 48 million Nigerians practice open defecation. The details of that story on page 14 of the paper. These are the papers we have for you this morning.
Well, those are the headlines this morning. It's a very interesting morning in the papers, and I think it all started from a lot of things that happened yesterday and how people are feeling about a lot of the things that have happened during the week. But I'm going to stay in the FCT, if I may.
How did I know?
I'm going to stay in the FCT.
Irresistible, right?
so juicy. It's such a juicy story, but I'm going to start with the Leadership Friday. The Leadership Friday paper today. Wike, non-payment of fees. Wike revokes Buhari, Abbas, 757 others, Abuja land titles. And that's not where they're stopping. The FCT authorities say they're going to withdraw property rights of 614 other people. And former President Muhammadu Buhari saying the seized land is not his. It was his spokesperson, Garba Shehu, that spoke up about it. You can actually get more details from page 4 of the Leadership newspaper this Friday morning. But you see, it reminds me of when those names were put on. I think it was the This Nigeria newspaper. It was some months ago. We decided when we picked up the papers in the morning, they were really bulky, and we kept wondering what's going on with these papers. And the FCT authority said, look, we have a situation in Abuja where people have been given lands, they don't have the C of O, they haven't regularized their documentation, and many people haven't paid ground rent. There's a lot that has to be done. Remember that in the FCT, and this is a very important note, all of the land in the FCT belongs to the government. So when they tell you you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, go get it done. Go get it done. So you don't find your name in a newspaper or have your land rights revoked, as we've seen in these cases. And like we saw from the leadership this morning, they're not stopping there. They're going to be revoking more lands. They said 614 more. So go find out the status of your plot of land. Find out if you're done with your documentation. Go to Aegis. All right, go to Aegis here in Abuja. Find out what your status is. Know what's outstanding. Get it done. So you don't go on social media crying when your land is revoked. All right, so that's just my message to everyone in Abuja, because a lot of people have been upset with everything that's going on. So many people sending messages, oh, this happened to me. Why did this happen? How could this happen? I got the land in 1983. Well, what happened afterwards? They told us, but we didn't know. They didn't know. Now you know. Go find out what your situation is, sort out that paperwork, and own your land and live peacefully in the nation's capital, Malcolm.
Indeed, Kayla, while we encourage people to, find out what the real status of their land is and to regularize whatever payments they need to make to the FCT authorities, I will also plead with the FCT authorities to make sure that payment and regularization is done efficiently and is easy to do. It will be a real shame that all of these activities are going on and people are finding it very difficult to either make payment or that there is plenty of inefficiency, within the land authorities themselves. But hey, to be forewarned, they say, is to be forearmed. The issue looking at me this morning, there are a number of stories really that are taking my fancy on the front page, but I mean, we cannot just quickly forget the tragedy that happened in Ibadan. And, Kayla, something occurred to me that it will seem that it's almost every year now, that every year end. Last year, Ibadan had a tragedy. There was an explosion that took over most of Bodija, and people lost their property. To this year now, it is 35 children that are losing their lives in a stampede that could have been avoided. So I think that the governor of Oyo State really needs to up the game when it comes to safety and security, when it comes to safety in particular, because it would seem that all of the tragedies that have happened within Ibadan, I'm not trying to single out the governor, but I think that this is a pattern that we have now noticed, and I want to believe that, yes, that authorities within the Oyo State government too should have taken note of and perhaps begin to say, what other areas are we overlooking that, any tragedy can occur? Is there something, we have a very strong, safety agency that can help mitigate the effect? I mean, accidents occur, but they do not have to be so tragic. In this instance, 35 children, it's a major, major tragedy, more so because we're speaking about children. So while we'll continue to sympathize and mourn with those who have lost, their lives and they've lost their children, the biggest way to actually mourn these people is to make sure that such a tragedy never happens again. So I think that the Oyo State government really needs to up its game. And this is not just the Oyo State government, because it's sad. I think what's really sad now is that this always happens around the Yuletide season. So in the season when everybody should be celebrating, we'll be mourning or we'll be sad. It's not supposed to be. sadly, a lot of states are dropping the ball around safety issues. Is it around, especially water safety? So, by all means, in this season, while it is a season to make merry and be happy, I mean, looking at the videos yesterday, Kayla, my heart really broke. I saw parents taking their children gaily dressed to that carnival, and many of them didn't come back with their kids.
It was such a
That
tragedy.
is painful. So, by all means, this is not just the Oyo State government. While we'll plead with the Oyo State government to take a look at that, I think that it should also be a lesson to all the other state governments to, keep an eye on. It's not the season for governments to go and sleep. Everybody else is holidaying. It's the season for you to work. So all of the fun fair areas, the carnival areas, markets, this is a dry season as well, where a spark, sets off flames like that. So by all means, let's get our safety game up in this season so that we don't cry for nothing. Ayo.
Well, it's really, really touching. It's difficult to go off of that story because it's, as we say, he who feels it knows it. And I don't know the kind of Christmas the families are going to have this time around. How merry is it going to be knowing that your children have died, or that some of your children are in hospital or something? I don't know, but let's see what we can do as a people to even help ourselves. I'm talking about state governments. Let me go to Edo State. And clearly, of course, ladies, you know what's been happening in Edo State, where the state government, through the House of Assembly, made a declaration about the local government chairman. And of course, we know what the PDP has said, that it is illegal. And the Attorney General of the Federation, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, also made the same comment and says, look, guys, forget it. It is not something that is possible. That since July 11, 2024, when the Supreme Court made that pronouncement, removal of local government chairman is a prerogative of LG, legislative arm, local government legislative arm. In other words, it has to start from there. That's according to the Attorney General of the Federation. So when the claims are being made, that's because the local government chairman didn't submit financial records and all of that, I guess we're going to see, how this is all going to play out. Because don't forget, one of the issues that's been in the news about that judgment of the Supreme Court is in its execution, in how it is going to be applied. So we're waiting to see how all of this is going to evolve over time. The government made the statement, maybe through the House of Assembly, and the local government chairman said, sorry, you can't suspend us. And right there, they are in office. So, but then, how is this all going to play out? I guess we'll see over time. That's my take this morning, Malpe.
Well, that's where we leave our look at the papers this morning. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Just as the National Assembly is ramping up activities to end the year, President Bola Tinubu presents the budget proposals for 2025.
Our 2025 budget proposal is not just another statement on projected government revenue and expenditure.
The first reaction to the presentation happened right on the floor of the Green Chamber as lawmakers chant the President's Solidarity song. Tagged Budget of Restoration, Securing Peace and Rebuilding Prosperity, lawmakers react to some of the indices and allocations in the proposal.
Based on the parameters we have used in the medium-term expenditure framework, the inflation rate will reduce from over 35 to about 15%. That is to show that the GDP is also going to grow.
Defense have about 4.7 trillion. Infrastructure, 4.7 trillion. Education and health put together about 5.7 trillion. This is the highest so far we have gotten in any budget of the Federal Republic. We haven't gotten this amount in capital development before.
The presentation is coming days to the end of the year, and that will affect the January to December cycle for the budget implementation. This elicits some reactions from the lawmakers as well.
There is no magic wand that will make it possible for the National Assembly to pass the budget this year. And even next year, it has to be probably first week or second week of February.
You all agree with me with what we saw today that The president is doing well. The administration is doing very, very well. Look at the report from our Bureau of Statistics that the economy is picking up. I think we are present at about 3.5%. From the numbers, it's looking good.
Shortly after the joint session, the Senate reconvened plenary to give legislative backing to the extension of the 2024 budget.
A bill for an act to amend the 2024 Appropriation Act in order to extend the implementation year from 31st day of December 2024 to 30th day of June 2025 and for related matters 2024. Third reading taken and passed.
The extension of the life of the budget will give the lawmakers ample time to do thorough work on the 2025 budget proposals, albeit at the expense of the January to December budget cycle. From the National Assembly, Benny Ark for Channels Television News.
Oh yes, we're still talking about the budget 2 days after it was presented, and this morning joining us is Honorable Nkem Abonta, who is the former chairman, House Committee on Public Petitions in the 9th Assembly. Honorable, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning, viewers.
I was doing my best to make sure I don't get that assembly wrong, because I remember the president making that blunder, but coming back nicely from it when he called them members of the 11th Assembly, and they said, oh, they were members of the 10th Assembly, and he says, oh, maybe it means that all of you are going to be re-elected.
He was prophetic.
He was prophetic, right? It's a prophecy that they happily embrace.
Let's take it that way.
But let me quickly ask you, what generally is the mood in the House? You have experienced quite a number of budget presentations by presidents. What usually characterizes the mood in the House when a day like this is coming?
Well, such days of budget presentation is filled with expectations, hope, and parties will begin to flex muscles. The majority party will want to say we are in charge. So we're in charge. And they want to let opposition party know that keep quiet while we do our thing. Mm-hmm. And there will be expectations also to see the reactions from presidency and those coming with him with budget. It's a kind of fanfare. Mm-hmm. They look at it. While opposition will want to raise their voice, in those days, PDP then will have to tell Buhari, they will put a protest song, mm-hmm. while main party will also put one in defense. Mm-hmm. So freedom comes by struggle. We'll be singing and chanting something like a political song and war songs to show, but it's fun, it's good, and legislators will bond together and they look at it and they want to get the document so they can begin work.
Mm-hmm. Does it take away from the seriousness of the day?
No, at all. The thing is just the presentation and the budget speech, mm-hmm. and we'll go away and then begin to look at the work and accept it as a working document and begin to work. The seriousness is always there, but legislators come together and they're like football match and cheer up what it should be.
Interestingly, this particular budget presentation, the president was very careful to, state what the philosophy of the budget is. It's very interesting. It says, the budget seeks to restore macroeconomic stability, enhance the business environment, foster inclusive growth, employment, and poverty reduction, promote equitable income distribution and human capital development. I don't know whether, from what you have seen in terms of how funds have been allocated in the general allocation, in the broad headlines, do you see them, being able to achieve these, broad objectives, this philosophy, as enunciated in the details?
The philosophy sounds great. Sounds good, sounds hopeful, but I doubt if the realization will be possible. Equitable distribution of wealth, how? Well, we'll begin to. If you look at distribution of wealth so far, is there any alteration in it so far? Mm-hmm. So that is what will guide us. And then the growth of microeconomy is a thing very, very necessary for Nigeria to survive. So how much is allotted to such industries? And that's what will guide us. But if we achieve it, it will be very, very good. It will help Nigeria to speed up in terms of development. Because the gap between the rich and poor is too much, it's too wide. So anything that will abridge it, that'll bring it together, should be encouraged. And another thing to do, the budget is another matter, and the implementation is a different thing. That is where I think there must be a lot of legislative input, legislative fireworks into the system to see that the intentions and intent of Mr. President is actually realized.
Well, a lot of people will still be wondering how this is going to happen, because we know that there's usually a back and forth between members of the National Assembly and also the executive arm of government. The president has predicated his budget on, he acknowledges that they are ambitious, will I say, indices now. They're looking at how a total of 13.08 trillion naira, or 3.89% of the GDP, will make the budget deficit. They project that inflation will decline from the rate of 34.6% to 15% next year. We want to halve it, as a matter of fact, while the exchange rate will improve from approximately 1,700 naira per US dollar to 1,005. Some people say maybe this is achievable. Crude oil production, 2.06 million barrels per day. They have a number of other things that they want to be able to do with the budget. But for you, when you look at these assumptions, what is your take? Do you think that we can achieve, for instance, the production of 2.06 million barrels per day? You are from an oil-producing area.
It is possible to achieve and even surpass that if certain things will be put in place. Our oil production seems to be on the decline, based on some facts which is also known to the presidency.
It's been going up and down.
Yes. For example, the crisis in that area, oil theft, and the very poor technology and the tricks of the IOCs, that till today, we're not sure of what we produce. Oil theft takes perhaps 1/3 of production. So if they can control it, if they can put it in check, then a lot of production will increase. And if we increase production, then we can begin to say that the revenue base may be realizable to achieve some of those things.
I wanted to speak quickly, sorry to interrupt you, to the tussle between the yearly tussle we see between the executive arm and legislative arm when it comes to these parameters. Most times we'll see that the legislative arm will increase either the benchmark barrel of crude oil or increase how much they think should be produced on a daily basis, that's of crude oil. Do you think that this is going to happen this year, or do you think that they might reduce it?
I do not think that that crisis may be able to continue, because I see President Bola Tinubu managing the House very well. You can also see his prophetic statement during the presentation of the budget. He's already named them 11th Assembly. But the issue is that Parliament will always want to be very realistic in the budgeting, while the various executives in the past will be very bogus and ambitious and put a projection that, believing that Parliament will also bring the benchmark to a realistic thing. In most cases, they knock out $3 or whatever the differentials. And that differentials, they will also want to now put somewhere that will help in cushioning other things. But as it is now, that benchmark, is it realistic? I think we should look at a very realistic benchmark and put it so that we won't have deficit economy, or if there's a deficit at all, the gap will not be much. Let us for once have a realistic budgeting. It's an estimate for sure, but the estimate shouldn't be, the difference should not be the parity shouldn't be too great.
Do you think the parity is great here?
I wouldn't say it's great, but if you look at the trends in what we're doing, you will see that I do not think it's realistic, but they are not spirits to forecast exactly. It's a forecast, but let's watch what the Parliament will do. But I believe that the various indices is available to Parliament, that I want to go with whatever they draw as a proper benchmark, because they get the feelings, they get from the oversight and all the interactions, they know exactly what is the market, they know exactly what's the environment.
The 2024 budget. Because he actually took his time to explain a few things. Started by saying that that our economy is responding to stimulus. which is one that had a lot of people wondering how is the economy responding to stimulus. And they're saying they're going to further stimulate the economy through the implementation of these targeted fiscal stimulus packages, through public expenditures and specific non-inflationary spending. That brings me to the issue of government spending, because for many people who are listening to this budget, looking at the figures, it may be high in the naira, but when we look at the value compared to the 2024 budget and the value of the dollar at the time, it might actually not be that much. Yet, such an ambitious plan for 2025. Some people have talked about how more spending from the government side should be reduced in 2025. In what ways do you think that this spending from government can be reduced?
You see, basically we are not a productive nation, we're more of consumption. And government reducing expenditure will not be well for us. What I should think is that the areas of critical infrastructures should be spent on. If money does not circulate, then it will be difficult for people to thrive and for business to go on well. We should be very careful and choose where government will spend and spend wisely. And spend properly. Choosing
where they spend. And we saw that from the budget, there's a lot that's been put into infrastructure.
Sure.
Now, he's talking about consolidating on key policies that he has started with. And also going back to that 2024 budget, a revenue of 14.55 trillion that they were able to make. Was that money put into infrastructure development? And how do we ensure that that infrastructure budget is actually implemented to the letter?
That's why I said here that there should be a proper legislative fireworks in oversight and in securing the implementation of the budget. Budgeting is a phase. Implementation is another phase, which is critical. So parliamentarians who oversees them should put a stronghold and say, please, now we've passed the budget, or when we pass the budget, it should be deemed a law. And laws are meant to be obeyed. In the areas of infrastructure, health, and key areas, let them be sure that is done. And they look at where incentives will be granted or where some will be withdrawn. What we see, Nigeria is almost where anybody can play, anybody can do anything, and it's affecting us. And looking at inflation, like they said now, I pray that inflation will get reduced. Otherwise, it will eat up the budget and make a nonsense of the budget.
He's saying that they're going to reduce inflation to 15%. Do you think that's going to happen?
What will be the magic? That I will see that as a big economic magic if Bola Tinubu achieves that. Well, let's see if he can be able to do that. We'll pray and we want to assist to make sure that happens. And how can we achieve that? Is to be sure that only desirable things are brought in. Is to be sure that the micro setup is put proper. Is to be sure that so much demand will not chase few supplies. But it's a question of market determinations. If there are few, if the supply is little and demand is much, inflation will go up, and that's what we're seeing now. But if it's able to match demand and supply relatively well, then inflation will come down, and then unnecessary pressure on naira should be reduced. Why are we in Nigeria when dollar is now the acceptable currency? There are a lot of persons who they've not touched naira, they spend dollar in Nigeria, so they're putting so much pressure on naira, and naira is crippling, chasing dollar. Therefore, inflation will never reduce.
I was going to talk about manufacturing. Does this budget, in your view, improve manufacturing? Because you stated just not too long ago that we're a consumer nation, so the manufacturing sector is how are you going to generate income if the manufacturing sector is still so poor? And remember, we have to deal with a lot of things. He talked about the two of them, corruption and insecurity. And these are some of the things that affect, investments and people doing the manufacturing businesses in the country. Does this budget in any way help the manufacturing sector? And should we be seeing ourselves move away from a consumer nation to one that is a production nation?
You see, if you analyze the philosophy or the spirit and intent of the budget as presented, it will. But in practical terms, how will they do that? In practical terms, if we consume and keep on without manufacturing, then there'll be a problem. That is the reason why he must deliberately produce incentives to manufacturers. He must deliberately make sure that they survive. And if you look at the cost of production now, is heavy because it boils down on fuel and energy. So it's affecting manufacturers. So what are the deliberate policies set out for or incentives for those who are manufacturing so they don't leave? If you look at the manufacturing sector, every month there's an increment. If you go to the market from the manufacturers, they'll tell you they can't sustain the energy bill, they can't sustain this, and then even the tax that we are now going to look into. How is it going to favor manufacturers? What are the tax holidays, if any? What are the incentives that you put in? So if he deliberately plans to favor the industrial sector, then Nigeria will grow. Then we'll have the potentials. We'll do everything. I wonder what Nigeria cannot do, but how are we encouraging them to do it?
I mean, we've talked about one particular section of the Nigerian, which is those into the manufacturing area of things. But the worker, for the Nigerian out there, you know, for many people basically, the budget comes every year. It doesn't really change anything. You know, they don't really care. You know, my pocket is still empty. And it's Christmas, inflation. Earlier, Malcolm was saying jokingly before we went on air, she said inflation is the Grinch that stole Christmas. And that's because of one of the headlines we saw this morning, inflation taking away Christmas from people. So with these inflation figures and with the budget, how should a Nigerian be planning, positioning himself for 2025 in your view?
If I tell you, we are in an era of hope, renewed hope, and we are latching on hope. We are praying that there should be succor. Otherwise, if with the trend of what we're seeing now continues, then the future is bleak. But I want to believe that the government will sit up. I want to believe that parliamentarians will do all they need to do. In fact, the financial sector, are they also helping matter? So we must be sure that certain things are put in place to make sure that the masses will feed. In that area again, I want to urge Mr. President that agriculture must practically be overhauled. Agriculture should be seen as the only alternative to our survival. Agriculture is the only way to make people feed. You see, when hungry people are hungry people, and when people feed, they don't care much what you do if they have the basic food. If you look at other climes, the cost of bread is still almost the same thing in UK for the past 10, 15 years. The cost of milk, the cost of potato, those basic things are still there. What are they doing to maintain such things? We should try to do that. We should be able to, I will use the word subsidize, those staple basic things, not importing rice anyhow or whatever. You see, in the past, they tried rice regime here and it worked. So I believe that if the proper thing is done, we can feed Nigeria, and that's not important. As we import and export nothing, we will lose. Pressure will be on Naira. Inflation will be high. How come we are the biggest producer of cassava, but we don't export? We produce yam, we don't export. We produce plantain, they don't export. So what are the things? This is where the manufacturing companies will also come to turn them to preservatives, to flour and so on, so we can preserve. You see, on ripe plantain, we joke with it, very soon it will be mango season. And what are we going to do with it? We can't turn them to concentrates, yet we import concentrates for our manufacturers to manufacture juice. So something must be done. We must look in. That's the only way we can have a realistic budgeting.
I think Ayo in Lagos will have a few questions for you. Ayo.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take you from where you stopped, Kayla. I'd like to speak to something that you just talked about now, the fact that agriculture is something that we need to really revisit how we handle it. Now, you talked about the fact that you raised an issue, literally just talking about the challenges we've been having in the area of post-harvest losses. Records say we have been losing about 4%, 40% or thereabout, and that those figures should actually come down, and much of which is because we do not have, what they call it now, post-harvest value addition strategies and all of that. But then, looking at the budget, there are some people who have spaded the budget, said that the budget only assigned about 2% to the agricultural sector. How concerning is that for you?
Sorry, come again, it says 2%?
Well, that's the analysis some people have made, yes.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying, that that is low. That's what I'm saying, that we should see agriculture as the next option, the only option for our survival. of Nigeria. Because there's a projection now on production. Assuming that fails, we don't realize it. The revenue drops. But if we put more money into agriculture and supervise it properly, monitor it properly, practical agriculture and mechanized agriculture, then we can feed and sell the excess and make more money. There are a lot of countries, they don't have oil. They survive on agriculture. And you can, if you go back to our post-regional period, when we operated regions, agriculture, the groundnut pyramids, the palm oil produce, cocoa, the best building in Ibadan today was done by cocoa whatever. Can you now see that we manufacture cocoa, we don't have chocolate industries in Nigeria, or very few of them. So we take our raw materials outside Nigeria, cocoa, and they'll buy it cheap, and then they produce chocolate, and we'll buy it in heavy dollar and so on. You can see the run and so on. Palm oil is more expensive than crude oil, I hope you know. Palm oil, a liter of palm oil, you cannot get it for the same value with crude oil. But we're neglecting it. Seeing Malaysia and all whatnot today, are they not surviving on palm oil? And they bring it back to us as a vegetable oil, deodorized and bleached palm oil, and then we'll take it here. So if we invest in agriculture, we'll be talking less of oil, we will not be crying much. So the way of preserving harvest or post-harvest production is something we'll lack in Nigeria. During tomato period, when you see them wasting, they won't be preserved to potato peri or something we can use later. Dangote tried it. I don't know how he succeeded or not. If you look at orange period, after orange season, we'll have no more again, but we can preserve and export. The same thing with other items I can count on and on and on. Can you see that we can't even export our yam or plantain to UK directly? We have to smuggle it to Ghana, and Ghana will liberally supply UK. So we are losing. We must look at agriculture holistically, practically, properly, and so on. So budgeting, in fact, I want to urge the House that during the time, because they are budget writing legislators, they should add more to agriculture and create smallholders units that not pocket farmers, not portfolio farmers, go directly to make sure that they will. And again, that is where the challenge of insecurity comes again. So when Tinubu says he's going to tackle insecurity, we want to help him, support him, because if insecurity is reduced, then we can begin to produce. The farmers will be able to go to farm and produce enough, and then the off-takers will take it. How about those commodity boards we used to have before?
Maybe Honorable, maybe this is an improvement. Just maybe this is an improvement, because last year, the 2024 budget assigned just about 1.32% of the total budget to agriculture. And besides, there is the special agro-industrial processing zones and a number of other initiatives like that. First phase of that one is gulping some 538 million naira. Yeah, $1 million, beg your pardon, $538 million. And I understand that more than $1 billion has been assigned for the second phase of that one. Maybe that's what the president is benchmarking on. However, there's a question that Kayla and Malkwe have also raised along the line of the impact of the budgets over the years on the people, particularly this one. Maybe the challenge, one of the challenges in that is whether or not the initiatives are communicated well enough, strategically enough, impactfully enough on the people. Do you think people understand enough to have a buy-in on both the budget and the processes that go into it?
I will say that, you see, budget appears to be a elitist thing. The masses, the market women, the rural people don't understand what you even talk about budget, not to talk of the processes and so on. They don't. They only hear the presented budget. And then importers, manufacturers will wait for the budget to know what next step to take. Is it favoring them? Is this favoring them? What areas? And so on before they know what step to do. Therefore, educating people properly, letting them know, it's only what you understand that you can buy into. It's only what you appreciate that you can partake in. But what you do not know, you do not know. What you don't understand, you don't understand. You have no business in it at all. Therefore, I will say that the budget sessions impact little or not at all to the masses, except it affects the market value, and then they benefit from it. That's when they will know that, oh, this budget is good. If by tomorrow now we'll start buying rice, 50,000 naira for one bag of rice for 50 kg, then people will say, oh, there's an improvement, there's whatever in it. So for now, only the elites, only the peer group that are into importing or having direct deals with government understand budget and budget processes and so on.
Maybe it's a little too early to calculate the amount that will go into budgeting for 2025 from the federal government and all the states, all 36 states in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, particularly for the federal government, when the Auditor General's report comes out, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 4 years after, then they know that there are gaps, then they know that some people didn't do what they're supposed to do, and they have been getting budgets repeatedly, continually, irrespective of the fact that they were not doing what they ought to have done. So in terms of budget performance, how hopeful are you that this will perform better than previous years for the Nigerian at the end of the day, particularly at the federal government level?
Well, from the budget analysis, the president told us they got or surpassed 75% of the implementation of the last year budget. I will want the legislature to tell us, as a result of the oversight functions, that is that realistic? Did it happen? Or did they see that? Particularly in the infrastructure area and the capital development areas, that is when it will have a ripple effect. But we are hopeful 2025 that if the zeal, if the seriousness we are preaching now, if we want to tackle this inflation that want to eat us up, if they will cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy, as we are told, then if the hype in the electricity bill will be cushioned, then every hand must be on deck to see that the budget implementation should be better and thorough. Because these two removals is directly and proportionally affecting other transactions. It's affecting business. It's affecting commerce. It's affecting transportation. Whatever you do. If you look at what is happening this Christmas period, you can see that Nigerians are yearning. Why? Because greater persons are chasing very few things. You see? And I should think that something should be done to see that some kind of palliative, was supposed to say, not necessarily handing over bags of rice or something. I don't know how the government is going to do it. Not only government, not the federal government, even states. They all should be able to put hands together and do that rather than internal bickering and so on and so forth. It's just like if you look at the tax proposal bill, there are a lot of incentives for the down masses, for the it's graduated from this to this and so on, but there's a lot of flaws in it. But if properly pursued, I mean, we need to rejig our tax regime, but in a proper way that it won't offend federalism.
We've talked quite a lot about a lot of topics in this budget, but one of the ones that we haven't really mentioned is the debt servicing bit of this budget. 49.7 trillion, but 15.81 trillion is going into debt servicing. And yet somehow they want to be able to increase the revenue. They said they met 14 trillion, about over 14 trillion in revenue in 2024. The plan is 34.82 trillion in 2025. Meanwhile, we're servicing a debt with 15.81 trillion on a budget of 49.7 trillion. And the value of that money in dollars is actually a lot lower. So talk to us about the workability of this and this debt servicing thing. And we're also looking at the fact that in 2025, more debts might even be incurred by this government. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to make bold to say that we should stop borrowing first. We should stop borrowing and look inward. Two, where you use 1/3 of your budget, 1/3 of your budget to service debts, it means you're operating with 2/3 of that budget. That's the meaning. Because 1/3 is already gone to debt servicing. Is there a way they can reject that budget? But again, we must have the credibility of those who are giving us money or those who gave us money. Before China will foreclose some of our things and so on. So how are we going to do it? It should be local and international debt. So he should get his people to sit down and rework it. I should think that amount is much in the debt payment and so on. And again, that's where I will also challenge Parliament to look at how come this debt came. Before we borrow again, we must analyze critically what is that money meant for. Is it going to achieve the purpose? Did it achieve the purpose? Will it be able to repay itself? You can't borrow money to do something that will not repay itself, that you have no hope at all. And in most cases, these things are inflated. In fact, there should be an inquiry into all the money borrowed and what was the utilization. So I will know what one we are going to pay first. Those users one, we should be able to look at it again. Because I want to bet you, I want to tell you from inside that some of this money borrowed were not used for the purpose meant for. Even though you would say they were not borrowed by Bola Tinubu, the argument, but government is a continuum. So who borrowed it? For what purposes? Do we need it? Some money we borrow at times are not useful. We borrowed a lot to say for railway. Well, how good is rail today? Was that money put in there? Other smaller countries will use less amount to do greater rail line than what we borrowed. We borrowed in a lot of areas. So who is fooling who? What is happening?
So we always take a look at the federal budget, and rightfully so. I mean, you've spoken about the fanfare and everybody looking at, what exactly the federal government is going to spend. But we also know that the state governments, constitute a large part of the budget spending as well. They have started presenting their own budgets as well. It's the budget season generally across the country. And we understand that so far about how many states? About 30 states now have done a budget presentation, and from what we can see, they're set to spend about 22 trillion naira, in addition to whatever it is the federal government is also looking at spending. Do you think that we are also looking closely enough to see how the objectives of the state government are aligning with that of the federal, so that at least people can begin to feel, people at the grassroots can begin to feel, what exactly they're supposed to feel in terms of what their government can do for them?
You see, my take on that is, well, that's the beauty of federalism. The states are empowered to plan budget as they deem fit. And that is why I think that legislators, the parliament, should be liberated at all levels. The powers the federal legislators enjoy, I don't think the state legislators enjoy that. They are mere an appendage to governors. They can't scrutinize the budget properly. They can't dictate to governors. They can't say this is what we want or what we do not want. And again, most of the state budget are also hinged on what they are, not internal revenue per se, but what they are going to get from the federal government. Therefore, what they do at the state level should concern us. Because if the states all get it wrong, then there won't be any impact on the federal system. We won't feel it. So the states should wake up, they should budget aright, but fortunately, unfortunately, they have their thing. The federalism, the principle of federalism allows them to do it. So that is where the state legislators and the indigenous of such states should be able to ask questions, should be able to be open, and we have a freedom of speech, whatever. People should be able to hold the governors more accountable so that the people at that level will breathe. But there seems to be so much concentration on the center. That's why we're talking that there should be devolution of powers, so people get more serious to look at what happens at the state level. A state governor, again, that is where party politics comes to play. There seems to, most state governors are they rewarded party faithfuls who have little or no knowledge of what to do. You can't give out what you don't have. So most governors, I challenge them, well, I don't know, I'm speaking in my mind, I challenge them to wake up and be able to budget appropriately. They should train persons. I will say, for example, I'm from Abia State. I'll give my own state governor kudos in reality of what is happening in the present time. The present budget, the 2024 and so on, we're seeing a lot of upgrades in infrastructure and so on. Unlike some other states and so on, I can see states who are measuring up too. So if they all move on that angle, then Nigeria will say the hope will be realizable. It will be very, very hopeful.
Indeed. So well, we have, that's one thing that we all have to keep even as we go into 2025. We have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Honorable Nkem Abonta is a former chairman, House Committee on Public Petitions, and a member of the 9th House of Representatives. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank God.
Well, we'll take a break, and I know that John McQuarrie will be crunching the numbers for us. Business Morning on Sunrise Daily on top of the hour. Please stay with us.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Yes, we do business for just about 30 minutes, and then we head back to that Sunrise Daily conversation. And it's good there that Mark and Kayla, as well as Ayu, are talking about putting an eye on the states in this season of budgets. Because, of course, they are closer to the grassroots. Now, let's start from the global space, telling you that oil prices fell in early trade on Friday on worries about demand growth in 2025, especially in top crude importer China, putting global oil benchmarks on track to end the week down more than 2%. For this morning, we see red is what we have, 0.43% for Brent at $72.57 a barrel, while WTI has gone below $70 now, 0.26% down, $69.12 a barrel. Chinese state-owned refiner Sinopec, they're saying that in its annual energy outlook they released on Thursday that China's import could peak as soon as 2025, and the country's oil consumption would peak by 2027 as diesel and gasoline demand weaken. Now, dollars climbed to a 2-year high, also weighed on oil prices after the Federal Reserve flags that it would be cautious about cutting interest rates next year, 2025. And now we come home to the Naira and see how that fared yesterday. We saw some green numbers coming from that space. The NAFEX appreciated, gained 4 Naira 2 kobo to close at 1,551 Naira 43 kobo. Similarly, NFEM rate gained 1 Naira 45 kobo, settling at 1,537 Naira 43 kobo. The NFEM market experienced increased activity driven by improved supply, which contributed to the CBN closing rates appreciating by 1,540 Naira. So we notice now that there's also reports on CBN closing rates. Because we know what the market is now, the new platform, IFEM, which CBN constantly intervenes through into the market. But there are some not so good about that now. Still coming from the central bank, Nigerian businesses have projected further depreciation of the Naira within the current month. And this according to the November Business Expectation Survey by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Further analysis of the report shows that businesses expect the Naira to depreciate in January and the next 3 months next year, but appreciate after that 6 months into 2025. At the same time, the report mentions that firms are pessimistic about the outlook on the volume of business activities, financial conditions, access to credits, volume of total order, and average capacity utilization. However, the overall confidence index on the macroeconomy as well as volume of business activity, respondents are given on the volume of business activity for next month and subsequent periods under review, indicate that businesses were optimistic for the next month and subsequent period. Now, a subsidiary of Nigeria's oldest bank, First Nominees Limited, has now been registered as Nigeria's first nominee company in the capital market with effect from November 22, 2024. This registration makes First Nominees the first non-pension assets custodian in Nigeria to be recognized and registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission among the current 11 market players. The achievement is set to strengthen First Bank's regulatory engagement and expand the scope of its custody business to the benefit of its clients. Licensed by the Central Bank and regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, First Nominees is now a full-fledged capital markets operator. Well, let's stay in the private sector now as the year winds down. The festivities just around the corner. Let's see how businesses have fared in 2024 through the eye of, participants in the market. So now I will invite into the studio Mr. Issa Akombi. He's the President, Association of Nigeria Tire Marketers at Africa Tire Village at Lagos International Trade Fair. Mr. Akombi, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Compliments of the season.
Wish you same.
So for you as a business person, how would you describe the year 2024?
Well, challenging. Challenging, we thank God that we are still surviving, but it was challenging.
We see from the Central Bank of Nigeria a survey that you business people are expecting this month and next month to be good. After that, there's a bit of fear of what could happen in 2025. So when you build on how the year is ending, let's talk about, you're into the tires.
Yeah.
Demand, prices, hitches around, imports, and all of that. What do you see and what do you expect?
Well, as for the past years, like I said, it has been challenging because of the unfriendly policies that have been coming from the government side. Tires importation has been very, very difficult, and it's unfortunate that it goes back to the users because whatever is done about clearing or whatever, it is channeled back to the importation, and we're in business to make profit. As I'm talking now, to clear 140 feet container, you will need 12 million naira. The charges are too much, 20% with 5% VAT. So that is making it difficult for us, but we expect it to be better in the coming year.
I just want for you to explain better when you say unfriendly policies.
Yeah.
Which of those policies?
Yeah, like the tariff with the duties you pay on importation, tires especially, like I just said, 20% with 5% VAT, even though all of us we pay our VAT as we sell, but still we need to pay VAT when we are clearing our goods. And like I said, you need 12 billion naira, 12 good million naira to clear 140 feet container. These are policies that are being made with people that just sit in the comfort of their offices without consulting the stakeholders. And this goes back to Nigerians that are using the tire. That is why we selling tires know that good tires and new tires are very expensive.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the better one would be if we had locally produced tires.
Very good.
So what's stopping us?
That is the problem. That is the point, and we have been shouting on this for long. The permanent solution we will have to this is local production of tires. We had Michelin and Dunlop those years. They have relocated. Their complaint was majorly power. So if this is stable and they are brought back to the country, and even we can even encourage the foreign tire manufacturers representative in Nigeria to come and establish tire manufacturing plant in Nigeria. It will create more jobs, and we have tires at a very low and affordable prices and with very good qualities.
So do we have to wait for those multinationals to come into our country? Isn't it possible for Nigerian companies to engage in manufacturing of tires?
It is with good support from the government.
What kind of support?
Like just make the whole thing just surrounding the manufacturing, just make it very easier for them. Support, funding, and all this protocol they need to go through should be made here. The ease way of doing business should be encouraged on this matter.
So, because, I mean, we hear our government, they talk a whole lot about the ease of doing business and all of that.
Yeah.
And yes, even when you talk about taxes, taxes are supposed to be
That's another thing.
Yeah, they're supposed to be used for development of infrastructure, which is supposed to go back to make doing business easier. So I guess you see this as a necessary cycle that we have to start at this time.
Of course, I think the government needs to still have a lot to do on this matter, because I believe the local manufacturers are willing and are ready to go into local production of tires. Even we as marketers, we have said severally that we are ready to partner with anyone, anybody that is ready to manufacture tire locally. But government needs to do a lot in making this one possible.
Because, I mean, the government is talking about not just tires, but making the whole car in Nigeria. I think some funds have been allocated for that. So one would have thought that perhaps looking at the parts, might be easier to start with than, looking at the whole
It's not as easy as you think. Not as easy as you think, because if you talk to manufacturer, they have a lot to say. And we as marketers, we talk to them too. We encourage them to do this so that Nigerians can have access to affordable and quality tires. But their complaint is always that government needs to do more.
Well, everybody wants government to do more, but I guess the private sector will also have to wake up, because the government has a whole lot to do. They have different sectors to take care of. People say face human resources first, health, education, and all of that before we can now move into some of this.
But the point is that governments have to be ready. Because as the private investors, they are in business to make money, and they'll be ready always to, venture into the business that can fetch them money. But they still need government one way or the other. That is why we always say government should please do more in supporting this.
So government support will come in funding or in policies?
Yes, in funding. And if look at the rate in commercial banks now, too high for business to
everything is connected, because the rate that we see is because the government is also trying to bring down inflation, So, banks cannot operate on their own.
Well,
they have to work with the CBN's regulation, which is how they bring down the interest rate for calming of inflation. So, I wonder which one we should do first.
Well, the point is that we are businessmen, and we talk about ourselves more, and most of the time we think of what we do with our money and the returns we get. And so what we think about, whatever they can do, they should do to make the interest rate friendly.
So I guess with this high cost of tires and all that, more Nigerians will be taking risks. This is a travel period. People will see something wrong. They're supposed to change a tire. They'll be like, well, let me just manage because of how expensive tires are.
No, they shouldn't manage.
Yeah, they shouldn't manage, but if they don't have the money, are you going to give it to them for free?
No, the issue is that if you have a reliable source through which you are getting your tire, there are ways you can do it. You see, in our market, we have a platform for our customers that if you know you are a steady customer with us, there are ways we do it with you, that you can get your tire and be paying us as. See, there was a time we were working with SON and the FRSC to see if a bank can partner with us so that a user can go to the bank and, just get a paper to get a tire from us. The bank will be responsible for the payment, while the user will be paying back the bank. But it didn't work. But with now interest, we can do it.
With interest, those things will have a high rate of interest, which will make it even more expensive.
Yeah, but the point is that you are not paying at once. It's not a down payment, so it is one way or the other. So and the choice is yours. So if you want to buy it and pay downright, no problem. But if you want to just pay as you go, as we say, no problem. We are also in business to make money. And while our tire usage, we are running it, our money is working.
All right, so what do you see for 2025? President Bola Tinubu has said that the pains that we feel now, they are necessary for the benefit of tomorrow. And, that we should stay optimistic. Are you optimistic that 2025 will not be as challenging as 2024?
I am very, very optimistic. Very, very optimistic. Because with the budget here, the president has read, and with the little knowledge I have about that, I think the budget is a budget of hope for all Nigerians. And I think 2025 will be better, inshallah, for everybody.
What are some steps that you think, maybe one or two, not so elaborate, that you think the government could start doing now to make 2025 even, not as challenging as 2024?
I think they should begin to address the necessary things that affect the common man. They should begin to address them. The food is very important. Transportation, very important. If they can begin to do that and see how those things are becoming more easier for Nigerians, I think we have more hope that at least we are looking ahead for a better hope in 2025.
All right, we certainly hope that they will do that. Mr. Akombi, thank you so much for your time and your views on the program. President, Association of Nigeria Tire Marketers at the Lagos International Trade Fair. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Compliments of the season again.
You too. All right. Now, away from that, stakeholders in Nigeria's agricultural sector advocating for an enhanced public-private partnership to develop sustainable digital agricultural extension services. And it's aimed at empowering smallholder farmers and boosting food productivity. The call for collaboration was highlighted during a conference in Lagos organized by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the African Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services.
Focus on soil health.
The stakeholders strategic meeting brought together key players from the public, private and development sectors to explore collaborative pathways aimed at transforming the agricultural landscape in Nigeria. The event underscored the urgent need to establish strong public-private partnerships for sustainable digital agriculture extension services.
You might have good soils, you might have good seeds, you might actually have access to markets on the other hand. You might have cross-cutting, a cross-cutting climate play, but if you do not have advisory and extension systems that are effective, that are accessible to the people that need it, then all of your research and innovation goes to waste.
Develop so-called presentations from various experts provided valuable insights and validated findings that will inform a proposed public-private partnership extension service model. This model aims to tackle pressing challenges in the agricultural sector, increase productivity, improve market access, and foster self-sufficiency among farmers. One of the challenges of extension delivery systems is the ratio of extension agents to farmers.
Human interaction does not scale if one extension officer has to serve a few hundred or thousands of farmers. So the issue is really if we can provide digital services that are fully automated, and that's exactly the value proposition of artificial intelligence, because it's generating text and voice output that can be utilized for advisory.
You are talking of let's say extension advisors who are private sector, but they are input dealers who get money out of input, but they provide bundle services to other, let's say in digitalization and other areas as well.
Over the course of 2 days, participants engaged in thought-provoking discussions. The focus remained on developing collaborative solutions that are not only sustainable, but also scalable.
Digitalization has almost come into every facet of our lives, including agricultural extension. And there have been so many proliferation of apps and ICT components in agricultural extension. But essentially, the government needs to take a place in working policies and strategies to ensure we have a seamless system.
Organizers hope that the insights gained from this meeting will play a crucial role in shaping future strategies to support smallholder farmers and enhance food security in Nigeria.
So we're still staying on reviewing the economy in 2024 through the eye of the private sector. We have another participant in the private sector now, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Onofowo. Mr. Onofowo, good morning and compliments of the season.
Good morning, Ine. Compliments of the season to you and compliments of the season to Nigerians as a whole.
Yeah. So how would you describe the year 2024?
The year 2024, to me, from the manufacturer's perspective, has been one of turbulence to the point of believing we get into stability. So we have a turbulent beginning of the year, which was coming from the end of the year of 2023. And I think for now, we could say we've had a bit of a mixed match between a stable situation, between having a forex that has been consistently at a certain level, that has been manageable. But irrespective, the major word would have been turbulence.
So, okay, so that's it for 2024. But have we started the journey to stability and out of this turbulence?
I mean, in fairness, we might say, yes, we have. We're in the right direction to stability. The inconsistencies in policies, in the direction of the economy has now metamorphose into a bit more consistency in policy drive, and both on the macro and on the micro. And we're seeing a convergence of both, which we did not see at the beginning of the year. And those convergence is what is resulting in the last quarter of the year, or last 2 quarters of the year, third quarter, fourth quarter, into a bit of the word stability. And I think those are the watchword that everybody really wants to talk about now going forward into 2025. So the key criteria was what for every manufacturer was looking for the word stability, because with a bit of stable situation in the economy, taking the FX, taking policy, for any manufacturer, it is easier for you to make certain strategic planning decisions. And when you cannot, it becomes a bad to worse scenario for most manufacturers in the country.
Yeah, well, I agree with you talking about stability, because, I mean, a lot of investors, the issue of policy inconsistency, policy somersault, whichever way you want to say it, has been a problem. But are you confident now that perhaps we have gotten to a level of consistency? But of course, especially foreign investors will have to wait for a bit to ensure that we are really on a stable ground.
For me, we're definitely on a stable ground. I'm for one that being a big believer, especially, and I've said it on your show, that look, I'm holding the Naira. So that means they've done something right if you're holding the Naira today. And I only appreciate the Naira being stronger over time. Now, the reality is that there's been a bit of stability, inconsistency, of the inconsistent mismatches we were having. But now you've got the window has been opened, the Bloomberg window got open, which actually started, and you can see what happened to the FX scenario. And we've seen a lot more transparency in the FX window. Going forward, I think the stability that everybody wants is a bit more consistency, staying the course. Which would mean that you're looking at duty rates for the customs coming down, reflecting the current scenario that we see with the market that's trading around 1,500, and we expect that to actually happen. I'm still not a big believer that the central bank window should be determining the actual window in terms of custom. That I think still needs to go, because it should be a fiscal policy issue that affects every manufacturer in this country. And that should not be something that should be determined purely by the total window of a free market. And secondly, in terms of going forward into 2025, I think the key fear for everybody is that things don't go back as 2023 or the beginning of the year of 2024, is things remaining stable. I see that my own view is that we will get a stable 2025. Yes, would it be an astronomical growth? No. Would there be any exceptional differentials between 2024 and 2025? I don't see it. I see a similar scenario, but a more stable scenario in 2025. So the course really for 2025 for anybody, as I would advise, is reduce your risk, stabilize your systems, and just watch. But irrespective, the market will still be stable. We have a lot of things in our advantage now. We're moving away from an import petroleum product dependent country to literally a country that is going to be net positive of its import to export of petroleum products, and most likely by 2026 be a major exporter of petroleum products. And that should see a flip side into our forex scenario and our trade balance. And that should see a stronger Naira towards 2026. And that to me, would allow the market, especially the manufacturers, to foresee a better future. I disagree with a lot of companies that are leaving, but I think what you're going to have by 2026 is everybody coming back in anyway. And with the stability, and I think with the investment plan that everybody see, I see a positive 2026, a stable 2025.
What about in the area of infrastructure, power, transport, logistics, which have been major hitches to growth of businesses? What do you see in those areas?
I think infrastructure spend still needs to be a lot more. There's no country that can work without proper road networks, proper logistic networks. The key thing to any business is the movement of the material, distributive or productive. You need to be able to move the materials across the country and across your logistics of your raw materials coming to you. So those are key factors that I think the government needs to continue to focus on in creating the infrastructure for enabling those businesses to move around. Those are facts. Secondly, the issue of power. The power situation, unfortunately, is abysmal, terrible, not great, but it needs a lot of improvement. The investment has been wrongly done over the years. It's very wrong for us to quickly blame the current scenario on the current government, because I don't see any infrastructure resolution happening within a year or two. It doesn't happen. Power is not something you solve that quickly. Now, it takes years of solutions, of consistent strategy to actually solve power. I think now that the focus is on trying to solve the power scenario with the national grid, with removal of subsidies, should put a lot of investment into power. But the only thing I want the government to focus on power is because it's to create a supply chain in the country. Because you see, you're going to spend billions of dollars on power, but I don't see the reason why we should be focusing on not localizing the contents of power. Because the more you can keep in the money that you're spending and recirculate the money within your economy, the more you grow your economy. So when you have any deficiency in infrastructure, the focus of that infrastructure solution should be localized, which means creating jobs locally, creating the supply chain locally, as much as you can. It's not possible for us to do that all overnight. So let's not live in Clampuco land yet. But we need to enable the ministries and the agencies to focus on localized solutions. So as you spend billions of dollars on power, you're simultaneously actually solving some SME-related, medium-scale, large-scale related infrastructure and manufacturing deficiencies that you have. But power would always be 40% cost to every manufacturer in Nigeria and above, but it's something we need to continue reviewing. One critical part, I think, of power which the government, I think, needs to instantly review is the cost to gas for all manufacturers. That thing has been going on for years. I think they did some concessionary gas power for the textile industry about eight years ago. It was supposed to be a general concession. I still do not understand why anybody in Nigeria is paying $8 per thousand for gas to power when the investment is being done by that industry. We need to, same way we've gone with embedded power costs for those generating power at $2, between $2 and $3. I think now is the time to get the manufacturers to enjoy the same benefits if they want a stable 2025. Because if you don't get the cost of power down for every manufacturer in Nigeria instantaneously as a policy, you're still looking at the problem. And that, to me, because most of the plants or factories in Nigeria have already invested in embedded power. So how do you guarantee they create more jobs, employ more people, drive down the cost of that 40% of that power by giving them that $8 discount back to where the other embedded power cost is, between $2 to $3, and then allow them to grow their business? You don't need government in business. You need the policy of government driving private sector business, creating the jobs in the economy.
All right, Mr. Onofo, we're out of time, but trust you always have great ideas. I think the fact that we can expect stability in 2025, but I mean, that's nagging issue of power and how much is being paid for gas. Those are conversations that we'll certainly pursue in the coming days. But thank you so much, Chief Executive Officer of Coleman Wires and Cables, Mr. George Onofoka.
Thank you, Ine. Thank you for having me.
All right, so just before we head back, the Santa is still on the floor of the NGX. Yesterday, the market was on fire. Might be too late for you to hop in, but you can just watch and maybe you'll get a window. I'll hand you back to Sunrise Daily, but I'll be back at 1 p.m. We'll give you intraday numbers, and 55 minutes of business is what's waiting for you at 1 p.m. on Business Incorporated. Back to the Sunrise Daily team.
People at the grassroots have suffered long negligence, and it is enough. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is here to right the wrongs of the past and put the country on a high pedestal among Committee of Nations. This is why any attempt to sabotage the effort will be confronted headlong and given deserved treatment. The local government chairmen and councillors should not forget the governors have immunity, while they don't, that is, local government officials don't. So they have to choose between dealing with the funds of the local governments as they like and risking going to jail. The choice is absolutely theirs. If they want to tamper with the funds and end up in jail, it is their choice. Or if they want to write their names in letters of gold, activities like construction or upgrading of roads, schools, hospitals, etc. must return to the local government. Life must come back to local government.
Well, that is the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, who seems to have made it his life's mission that local governments be autonomous within this particular regime. And that's what we're focusing on this morning. We've seen how within this year, 2024, state governments have now been forced to conduct local government elections, because if they do not do so, there will be no allocation to local governments within their territory. And so we have seen a number of local government elections conducted, local government chairmen elected or selected, if you like. And we've also seen some controversy around local government allocation and their funds. For instance, in River State, where the local government chairman funds were withheld, the Supreme Court ruled that it was illegal to do so. In Edo State, where the governor has just been elected, local government chairmen, 18, all of them, 18 local government chairmen were suspended for 2 months. The Attorney General has come out very strongly to say that that is an illegal move and that is not allowed. Yeah, he says it is illegal and it is unconstitutional. So that's what we're looking at this morning. How is it that we can let our local governments function? Because a lot of people say all the development we talk about should be done at the local level, and that if the local governments work, then our country will begin to move in the right direction. Joining us this morning is Mr. Anwar Rafsanjani, who is the Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, is joining us via Zoom all the way from Gombe. Mr. Rafsanjani, compliment of the season to you and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much and good morning, Nigerians.
Well, we have watched all of the drama through the year around local government autonomy. We've seen the push by the Attorney General looking for interpretation of certain sections of the Constitution at the level of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court being uncompromising and finding the middle ground. And now we're looking at the implementation of what autonomy will mean. From what you have seen, that battle to get autonomy recognized and implemented, where will you say we're at in terms of understanding what local government autonomy really means?
Thank you very much. I think, let me say that the Attorney General position that he took is a very good one, in the sense that it is important for those local government chairmen to understand that if they allow any state governor to use them or misuse them, they will be the one to pay the consequences. If there's any diversion, misappropriation, or looting or stealing of these funds that come to their local government, as the chief executive of those local government and the people who have signed and approved withdrawal of this money, they must answer, whatever the law says. So therefore, it is important to caution them. It is important to also advise them and let them know that they are responsible for management of these resources. And if they allow anybody to intimidate them to take this money, they will answer the consequences of that. So that's number one. Number two, for us to successfully, have this autonomy and implement this, there must be constitutional amendment to deal with ambiguous issues within between the governors and the local government roles and responsibility. As it is now, the Constitution allows governors to make law for local governments. And that is where the trouble is. Many of them have clearly, like Anambra State, they have clearly made or amended the law to enable them to continue with the joint account between the local government and the state government. Until when we have a proper national conversation, debate, discussion, and agree on how to minimize this excessive power of the governors, we will not be able to realize the autonomy that we are looking for the local government. Thirdly, if we continue to leave local governments to only people who probably are the cronies of the governors and competent, qualified, experienced, people with impeccable characters are not participating in the local election, then we will not be able to have the kind of quality personnel that can stand on their feet and be able to do the work for the people. So we must push for constitutional amendment to further strengthen the local government as it is. Even though the Supreme Court has issued this, but you still have some of these lacunas, some of these lapses that the governors can actually still use to continue to collect this money directly or indirectly. Secondly, if we did not also, do something around the issues of electoral integrity at the local government level, at grassroots level, it will be extremely difficult for us to realize this local autonomy that we are talking about, and particularly with view to bring in grassroots development. Because if Nigerians are not looking at local government as a very important arm of government and therefore participating in the local government election and politics there and governance generally, then it will be extremely difficult for us to see the dividend of this long, struggle that we have all made to have financial autonomy for the local government. So therefore, in my opinion, for this local government autonomy to be effective and efficient, Nigerians, must be interested in what goes on in the local government. If you just don't have interest and you are only focusing on federal government or focusing on the state without paying attention on what goes on at the local government level, given these huge resources that they have at their disposal, we may not be able to realize the development that we envisage to have by giving them financial autonomy and by ensuring that this election also took place. So it was a good development that we actually have this election. No matter how shambled they are, no matter how bad they are, it is better than those ones that are being appointed by the governors. Now you know that you are elected and you must be responsible. You do not have what you call what the governors have, or the deputy governors, or the
immunity.
President or vice president. The immunity. So if you squander the money, you will know that you can be actually, ICPC will deal with you. If there's any substantial evidence to show that you have misappropriated or looted this money. So it is in your interest, and that is why the Attorney General caution is very, very important for them to listen, to understand, so that they don't think that they will have the cover. No governor can protect them. So, and that is why Nigerians must be interested to be participating, to be voting, to be asking questions. If you sit down and be voting, and then when the looting has happened, then you start shouting, then we will not be able to correct anything, and we will not be able to do any development that we want our people to benefit. We cannot be spending this huge amount of money. Yet the hospital are dilapidated, the primary school are dilapidated. There's no any road that links the farms, you know, with the city center or with the market. You need to have a proper blueprint as a local government chairman. What are you going to do to uplift your people at the grassroots level from the artificial poverty that political elite in Nigeria have all put Nigerian people in it? So as a local government chairman, you need to have a blueprint. You cannot just simply sit down there and be just dashing out money anyhow, contributing, donation. Because this is what also they do. They all give fake donation to all sort of, questionable, groups and organizations and even agencies.
I want us to be able to talk a little bit about some of the recent issues that are being raised about local government autonomy. First of all, FAC allocations to local governments between July and December of this year was 2.08 trillion naira. But there's a research that says that money wasn't paid to local governments directly, that the money was still paid to the state government accounts. Now, for the people who did that research, they say a question was posed to the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Odun, and he says this, it was due to practical, I'm going to use his words, practical impediments. Now, Algon Secretary General, that's Mohammed Abubakar, said those local government accounts should be opened and said he submitted that request to the Accountant General. So, based on this story, and it's been going on for a few days, why do you think these local government accounts have not been opened, and what kind of practical impediments could stop these accounts from being opened, even though they have been granted the financial autonomy by the Supreme Court?
So federal government must be honest and sincere on this issue. And they also need to dismiss, the allegation that many Nigerians are doing that there must be a hidden agenda to this, so that, still certain control, are going to be imposed on the local government, despite the fact that they have, this autonomy. I think federal government, if they were prepared for this, they would have already, after the election, they would have asked for authentic accounts with the signature of the relevant, authorities in each of the local government in Nigeria and send that money to them. There's no need for you to continue to be giving this money to the governors, because the allegation is that some governors have done some lobbying and that this explains why the money is still going to some of those governors. And if this is true, then it means that the government determination or the Tinubu administration determination to ensure local government autonomy, it will, be tantamount to some assaulting, if this is the case. So, but I want to believe that now that Nigerians have exposed what has happened by sending this money still to the governors, I want to believe that the federal government will wake up and do the needful. And now that we have elected officials in each of the local governments in Nigeria, there's no reason to continue to, do what you used to do, what you raised concern before. And with the Attorney General also, cautioning them, it means that they should also know that they have responsibility and they should be given that, opportunity so that we can actually believe in government. You see, one of the major problems we have in Nigeria is that one government sometimes says something, they do something different. And that is creating mistrust. And that is why some people don't take, whatever comes out from the government official serious. This should not be the case. We should be able to trust our leaders. We should be able to respect them. But if they don't do the right thing, then the citizen will find it extremely difficult to also trust them or to respect them. So it is a clerical call for our public official to always be honest, sincere, and do the right thing so that Nigerians can believe them. Nigerians can actually have trust in whatever they are doing. It's not nice that you have government at local, state, and national level. The citizens don't believe in them. They see them as liars. They see them as thieves. They see them as all sorts of negative things. This should not be the case. We should be able to rebuild our country and have trust on one another. The citizens should be able to trust their official. The government should be able to have interest of the people, not their own pocket, not their own political agenda. If you are able to deal with this, then I'm sure Nigerians and Nigeria will move forward from the suspicion and from the nepotism, from the ethnic chauvinism and religious cover that some people are using to continue to undermine the country progress. We need to do something. And
I mean, that trust deficit, Mr. Rafsanjani, is a very important point there. But I'm going to ask you, as the executive director of CISLAC, I know that you look a lot into local government autonomy. This is something that you've been speaking about since this Supreme Court judgment was given. Several interviews you've done after that. Does CISLAC believe that there is a plan to scuttle the implementation of this Supreme Court judgment?
Well, I think it's not just about CISLAC. CISLAC is just one organization. It's not really what the views of the people, the perception of majority of Nigerians is what matters here, not really one organization. I think for governments to dismiss this suspicion or allegation or mistrust, government need to do the needful. Government need to come clean and clear. Tinubu is known to be a very bold person. On this matter, let him also come out to be bold on this matter so that Nigerians can actually have confidence in him. Nigerians can also trust that, okay, when he says something, he mean it. I think, for me, if government comes out to do that, then government can scuttle the suspicion or the allegation or the perception or the mistrust that Nigerians are having right now. Because after Supreme Court has given this judgment, where should the government, federal government, be sending this money to the governors? Definitely Nigerians are questioning this and they are not happy with this. And the development at the local government that we want it to be upgraded will still not happen if you continue with the order of the yesterday. So it is a good opportunity for Mr. President to actually showcase to Nigerians that he meant what he meant in terms of his reforms toward local government autonomy. And we have constitutional amendment that is supposed to be ongoing. It is a good opportunity to identify lapses that is in keeping or giving impediment to the real...
Mr. Sanjani, my apologies for butting in. If you can hear me well, at the end of the day, it all comes down to people. And what the issues you're raising are quite valuable and important as well. The processes, the laws, the constitution and all. At the end of the day, it all comes to people. The Nigerians you're speaking about right now. And then the Nigerians that will run for office. The Nigerians, the chairman of the local government, the councillors, because most of the time people don't even know that the local government administrations also have their own legislature. So at the end of the day, it comes to people. We aren't really talking about the capacity of the Nigerians who will run for office. On the one hand, people have lost confidence in political parties. On the other hand, you can't go into office without being a member of a political party with all of the drama and the politics in it. So where is the middle ground, in your opinion?
In my opinion, that's why at the beginning I said that Nigerians must begin to be interested and participate in local governance. If they don't want to participate in local governance, they don't want to participate in the electoral process at the grassroots level, we will end up with people who are not having the required capacity or the experience or the integrity to be able to provide this governance. And let me tell you, some local governments, they are really big and it constitutes a lot of people who are educated, who are elite, and who should actually be interested in what goes on in their local government. So if they don't participate, we will end up with what we have been getting, having people whose objective or motive is just to come accumulate money and buy houses, buy new cars, go to Umrah, go to Dubai, go to London, go to Germany. That's what will continue to happen. But if you have people who are experienced, who are non-corruptible people, who are interested in grassroots development, who are even interested in democracy in this country, I believe that they should be participating in the local government. It's not just about the state or federal appointment. In fact, you can actually make, more positive input, or you can impact positively on people when you are actually in that local government thing, because there's resources. There are a lot of issues. Agriculture is there.
And there's a lot of work too. A lot of solutions should be coming from the local government levels. This morning, one of the newspapers was talking about the dangers of open defecation and how that 48 million Nigerians could be affected. But one of the concerns that anyone should be looking at right now, particularly around this issue, is that we have a syndrome in our heads already. For decades, there is a way we did things as far as local government administrations are concerned. So how long do you think it'll take? What do you think we need to do to screw it into our heads that things are different legislatively and constitutionally about local government administrations? People don't go out to vote during local government elections, so people don't even think much of it. So now that things have changed and there is a lot more responsibility and impact, direct impact that people can make when they go out to vote, and to even, call the local government chairman to account or local government administrations to account, what are the things that you think we need to do? How do we educate ourselves? How do we communicate to our people that things have changed as opposed to the days of local government administrators?
So actually, it's not just about coming out to vote. After the voting, after the election, do you just watch and see things just happening? No. And that is why we are missing the point in Nigeria. In some places, in some states, when after the election, that is the end of participating in governance, monitoring, and observation and participation. And that is the reason why you don't see the required development in many places, because people just assume democracy is just about, doing the election. After the election, that is it. No, that is actually even the beginning. After the election, you need to participate. You need to, because democracy is about inclusion, it is about participation, it is about actually placing interest and asking the required question or the necessary questions to help support the people that have been elected or appointed there. But if you don't participate by providing useful contribution on how to strengthen the governance itself, no matter, how much you campaign or you participate, you're elected, then that is not going to go anywhere. So your ability as a citizen to ensure that you are interested in what goes on. For example, many state governors have presented budget. In this budget, it is expected that the citizens should actually, play important role by analyzing the budget, point out some of the areas that they think government should actually do through the provision of public hearing. Do you know that in many states, they don't conduct public hearing? And you have so many professors, so many doctors, so many experienced people sitting down watching until when the state is looted, then they start lamenting. No, you have opportunity to raise issue, even though I know that some of the governors, they are very, very dangerous. If you criticize any policy, they can call police to come and deal with you. And because of the collapse of our institutions, police will just come and do whatever, politician asks them to do. We need to change things. If we want this democracy to be sustainable, to be responsible, to be strengthened, and to benefit Nigerian people, our institution must be revitalized to be more effective and efficient, to be more responsible. We must remove personal interest in running our institutions. You cannot use police or use any government institution for your own personal self-centered interest. You need to allow institutions to function so that, like you see in the advanced democracy in the US, even if you are a president, if you are doing something that is wrong, the institution will not support you. But in the case of Nigerian institutions, they have collapsed it to a personalized institution, which is why we are not getting things. When a governor, he can pocket the judiciary, When a governor, he can pocket the state electoral body. When a governor, he can pocket all the legislature at the state. And at the federal level, when the president is the father and mother of everything, irrespective of the fact that each institution has a mandate, constitutional or legislative mandate, to carry out things that is supposed to do in the interest of the nation. If the president wants to scuttle anything, they will follow him. No one would deliver to object it, and that is why we are in trouble. So until we also begin to, strengthen our institutions to make it to be,
Well, Mr. Afsajani, I hope that those who are concerned, and even Nigerians, to the generality of Nigerians, will listen to some of what it is that you have said this morning with regards to making our local government work. We have to thank you so much for your thoughts on the issue this morning. Mr. Anwar Afsajani is the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, and he joined us via Zoom all the way from Gombe State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm in Gombe for a wedding of a friend, so I just come to celebrate with them. I'm going back to Abuja.
Well, thank you so much, and all the best. We wish everyone compliments of the season. We did highlight that today is not just any Friday, but the Friday before Christmas. Please, whatever you do today, take care. Take care of the safety of those around you, and also be aware of security. Thank you so much for watching this beautiful Friday morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Thank God it's Friday, and just to add to that, a lot of people have been arrested following the incidents in Oyo.
Ibadan, yeah.
And so when there are a lot of those kinds of events coming up this Yuletide, so please be careful, check where your children are, and make sure that you stay safe. I'm Kayla Megwa.
All precautions, all necessary precautions, please take. It's the season to celebrate, to be jolly, and not to sorrow. Amaya Makinde, have a beautiful day and a wonderful weekend.